All right, breaking this morning, a U.S. drone shot down by Iran. Central Command moments ago called it unprovoked. How will the White House and Pentagon respond? Joining me now is Democratic Congresswoman Jackie Speier. She sits on the Armed Services Committee and the Intelligence Committee. Congresswoman, have you been briefed on this latest attack?
No, not yet, but certainly before the day is out, we will.
CENTCOM put out a statement calling this unprovoked. In their statement, they said this drone was flying in international airspace. Nevertheless, this comes at a very sensitive time in the Middle East. 1,000 U.S. troops headed to this region. What are your concerns about the atmosphere there?
I'm very concerned that the actions by this administration are so provocative that they are creating an environment that will destine us to war. And there's many of us, in fact, I would say a majority of the members of the House right now that would really be repelled by any act of war, but that's where the president is heading. And I think that we are going to have to speak up strongly against him using the authorization of use of military force dating back to the early 2000s as a basis on which he thinks he can act.
Well, two things. Is the president really headed to war here? That's an interesting question because we've heard much more bellicose language from the Secretary of State and his National Security Advisor than the president himself. The president himself seems to be downplaying the threat of Iran.
Well, it's very typical of the president to have, bad cop, good cop. But from the foreign country's perspective, you roll that all into one and you see a very bellicose, as you put it, nature with the United States. We are provoking them. We are taunting them. And it is not in the interest of the American people nor our service members to be going into a war that is not required.
Are you absolving Iran of blame? They're the ones who shot down the U.S. drone.
Well, what I am saying is that we are not good actors because we were parties to that joint agreement in which they were not going to enrich more uranium, and that was going to give them the opportunity of some economic relief so they could sell their oil. And then the president, as we all know, just on a whim decided to revoke it. You don't sign an agreement and then revoke it for no reason when everyone from the Secretary of State on down had said that Iran was complying with the JCPOA. So I firmly put responsibility on this administration and the president.
I'm just getting news here, Congresswoman, if I can. Joe Biden. Obviously, we understand, well, okay, hang on one second. It's a Biden statement on Iran. In response to the news overnight that Iran shot down a U.S. drone, Vice President Biden just released this following statement. President Trump's Iran strategy is a self-inflicted disaster. Two of America's vital interests in the Middle East are preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and securing a stable energy supply. Trump is failing on both counts. It sounds like you agree with the former vice president there.
I do agree, and so would our European allies. They think that the actions by our president in reneging on the JCPOA is destructive and belligerent, and all of which I believe to be true.
All right, I want to ask you about what happened on Capitol Hill yesterday. Hope Hicks testified before House Judiciary. You've been involved with the various Russia investigations for some time as a member of the Intelligence Committee, and you have actually been calling for impeachment, an impeachment inquiry for some time. My question to you, Hope Hicks refused to answer any questions about her time in the White House on the advice of White House counsel. If the White House game is delay and to drag this out, is the White House winning?
Well, the White House is obstructing justice of obstruction of justice. I mean, that's what she was doing. She has already waived any kind of executive privilege, as has the president, by testifying many hours to the special counsel. And she is referenced in the report numerous times. So we have every right to have her answer those questions. We will get her to answer those questions, but this is all part of the president's, abusing the court system as he did in his private life. He's now doing it in his public life.
Jerry Nadler says that he will destroy the White House legal argument in court. Does that need to happen soon?
Well, of course it needs to happen, but this president will do what the court system allows him to do, which is to appeal it to the highest court in the land, which could take 6 to 8 months.
I just brought up Joe Biden. He's also in the news for other reasons, talking about his work with segregationist senators in the 1970s, how he was able to reach across that divide and work with them civilly in other areas. And then he used language that some people found offensive. Do you think he needs to apologize for those statements?
I think we need to get on with the job of trying to find common ground. And I think this is much ado about something that is historical in nature. And I would say that we should just move forward.
Congresswoman